Very good. First of all, welcome. You are attending 45 Ideas in 45 minutes, a rapid fire sharing of ideas in our COVID world about how many of us are engaging audiences. For those of you who may have participated in this session at the American Alliance of Museums annual meeting, you'll know that this is meant to be interactive. We're going to welcome input from you throughout the presentation. But before we get rolling, I do want to say a few things. First of all, welcome. I want to salute the Visitor Experience Group and particularly Nicole for organizing this virtual meeting. Congrats. I know it's a lot of hard work and it's part of the reality of the world that we live in. So thank you and kudos. And I also want to thank all of you as professionals in our field for doing the hard work of trying to pivot, navigate, and understand how we can stay relevant and to our stakeholders, both internally and externally. You are essential workers, and thank you for your service. Once again, I am Tim Hallman, Director of Communications and Business Development at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. I'm former chair of PRAM, the PR and Marketing Professional Network of the American Alliance of Museums. Part of my responsibilities at my museum is to oversee guest experience. And I'd like to introduce Krista Kusuma, who many of you know, and who represents the Visitor Experience Group. Krista, you want to introduce yourself?
Happily, and I'll also share a little bit about the Visitor Experience Group. You might know that we're an all-volunteer run professional development organization, and this is our 9th annual Visitor Experience Conference and our first virtual one. And I think it's going really super so far. So thank you all for your time today and for joining our conversation. Again, I'm Krista. I'm the Audience Engagement Chair of the Visitor Experience Group, and I also lead a Bay Area VEX chapter, or a network here in the Bay Area of California. And it is modeled on a similar network that I ran a few years ago in Boston. So I have cultivated some good friendships here in town as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Erick.
Hello, thanks, Krista. I'm one of the other co-leads for the Bay Area VEX. And overall, I've been in the visitor experience world for about 6 years now. And most recently, I was the visitor experience manager at Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland.
And Wanessa.
Yeah, thanks, Erick. Hi, I'm Wanessa Tillman. I'm very excited to be here. I'm the Director of Visitor Services at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. And I'm very excited to be here for this great session. I think that I have been to at least 7 of the 9 conferences up to now. So I always find it fun and informative, and it's just great to be here with all of you. And I'm looking forward to sharing these fun ideas with you.
Thank you, Wanessa, Erick, and Krista. I do want to give some housekeeping rules. We promised you 45 ideas, but the way this works, especially with your participation, you're going to get a lot more than 45 ideas, hopefully. We're going to share 5 or 6, 10 ideas under a common theme, and then we're going to take a break and invite input from you. Throughout the session, we are welcome and encourage you to add things to the chat. If this is a great opportunity to celebrate something that maybe your organization is doing. It's also a chance for us to see what you're thinking about. We encourage you to share links to any of your ideas. And when we do take a break to invite your participation, Erick is going to monitor the chat and ask you to unmute yourself and share a bit more about your idea to the broader group. We really want this to be a chance for all of us to have a conversation and not just the 4 of us speaking at you. Throughout the meeting, add ideas to the chat. Erick will call on you during the breaks, and then we'll get rolling. Krista, you want to start us off?
Gladly. Thank you, Tim. Before we dig in, first of all, I want to say thank you again. And I'd like us all to take a collective pause together, if you would. If this pause is called 2 feet, 1 breath. If it's available to you, would you please stand and close your eyes and place one hand over your heart and the other over your stomach. Bring some awareness to your feet and to where each corner of your foot touches the earth. And let's take one long breath in and out, and in and out. And may we set our intentions for this time together. May this be a time for inspiring brave spaces within our organizations, for addressing injustices, and for amplifying voices that want to be heard, and for healing. May we move forward from this time of crisis with hopefulness, truth, and love. And now, let us begin. You can open your eyes. Our first category is pivot, or a novel or playful way in which a program is presented. And our first slide, or our first feature, is called Reopening Humor. Many of our organizations have been doing an amazing job, and I'll highlight the National World War II Museum's messaging. This shout out goes to all the insanely clever, nimble social media managers out there who gamely adapted their institution's voice, signaling a new age of health conscious, socially distanced visitation. And this is on brand, check this out, on brand, super appropriate and highly memorable. I don't think anybody could take offense at this kind of social distance reminder. Next slide. Resist COVID, Take 6 is a public art campaign by the artist Carrie Mae Weems, and it communicates healthcare messaging and brings awareness to the greater impact of COVID-19 pandemic on Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, a result of economic and social inequities. Weems, in partnership with the Dallas Museum of Contemporary Art and others, uses the visual language of advertising, combining photographs, text, and bold graphics in the form of billboards, wheat paste posters, and takeaways, including buttons and fans, to dispel myths about COVID-19 and to promote known preventative measures. Since its launch in April 2020 in Syracuse, where Weems was an artist in residence, this campaign has reached more than 10 cities across the US, and Take 6 refers to the social distance that is recommended. Next slide. Design by Distance is a unique exhibition that is perfect for COVID-19 that was hosted by the San Francisco Museum of Craft and Design online. It showcases how designers from around the world are responding to the COVID-19 pandemic through the development of objects, garments, accessories, and space planning. Curated by Ginger Greg Dugan and Judith Hoos Fox of C2 Curators Squared, Design by Distance highlights designers who are proposing new forms. Some of the proposals are meant for actual production and others are for creative fodder, but they offer commentary on the range of needs and feelings experienced while living in a pandemic. And who doesn't love this mask? Great, next slide. National Bear Week. Maybe you've been following. It was a week after last, I think, was the National Bear Week kickoff for the National Park Service. Each winter, curled snug in their dens, brown bears endure a months-long famine. During hibernation, bears don't eat or drink for several months. So their winter survival depends on accumulating ample fat reserves before entering the den. How COVID appropriate is that? And this year's Fat Bear Week is an annual tournament celebrating the success of bears at Brooks River and Katmai National Park. Does anyone know who won? Weighing in at over 1,400 pounds, number 747 Chunk wins by at least a hair.
Well, I'll take it over from here. Up next, we have the Akron Art Museum, who brought numerous organizations together to produce their own version of a Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle. With the powers of a Google Doc and social media, the Akron Art Museum was able to ask and gather clues to include into their collaborative project. The clues they created and gathered from other organizations range from pieces in their collections to facts relating to each one of their organizations. Next one, please. The New York Hall of Science created an online exhibit aimed to help their audience not only understand COVID-19, but also the questions that arise with a new disease impacting the world we inhabit. The questions and topics covered range from how do viruses work to what are the steps to creating and distributing a vaccine, a question that I'm pretty sure all of us are excited to find out. The success of the exhibit has also seen over 90 institutions across 17 countries recreate this online exhibition for their own purposes. Next one, please. The Museum of Boston's Ask an Expert virtual exhibit allows guests to either type or verbally ask questions through a microphone relating to COVID-19 to their resident public health expert, Dr. Anish Jha. Available through their webpage, guests are able to gather information ranging from COVID-19's origins to current medical advances that aim to further our knowledge about the disease. Next one, please. The John Michael Kohler Art Museum sought to remain connected with its older audience that frequently participated with their programs. The Art Center turned to Facebook as a lot of its audience was already connected to them via the Art Center's page. The Art Center went on to create a Facebook group to help connect its audiences with itself and, more importantly, with each other. The group allowed folks to have conversations and share their experiences together while having the Art Center be that common ground to kick things off. Next one, please. And last one for this section, we have the Anchorage Museum. And the Anchorage Dance Director and Pulse Dance Company Director, Stephanie Wanchala, sought out to remain in touch with its patrons by moving one of its more popular workshops online. The Anchorage Museum's virtual movement workshop guides participants through feel-good movements and stretches designed to nurture the body and mind. Individuals of all mobilities are welcome with options so everyone can participate. And that'll be the end of the pivot section for us. And we would like to see if you guys have any suggestions or examples of these organizations kind of moving their programs to a different space, most likely online for a lot of us. So you can drop them in the chat, or if you'd like to go on the microphone, we could also, I can also call on you guys as well. Mm-hmm.
I can go first. I don't mind. So we were going to have a virtual, not virtual, but story time at the museum and have a little club, but now it's virtual history explorers club. So we had to pivot from an on-site program to virtual, and we've been doing surveys with that as well to see how we're doing.
Awesome.
Yep.
And Cindy, will you tell us where you are?
Oh, Museum of the American Revolution in Philly. Sorry, guys.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Then we have Alicia down here in the chat. Do it at home activities. We didn't do that before, so to complete a new program for us at the Deosum in San Antonio, Texas. So another fun, new exciting adventure for all of us to try to tackle during this time. No, do we have any more from anyone else? We got Jane McKee. The Historic New Orleans Collection moved our programming outside this summer before we opened our doors to 4 courtyards in some of our French Quarter buildings. And then we have Natasha in the chat asking if anyone has done virtual galas and or fundraisers. I've seen people do fundraisers, a lot of them kind of coinciding with their new online programming to kind of help support those.
Mm-hmm. And I can say I know we're planning for what might be a virtual gala, and we did have one this past May also. So yes, we have, with really great success, because it costs a lot less, because to have the gala virtually, because you weren't spending lots of money on food and beverage.
Mm-hmm. I know y'all also have Katie from the Vizcaya Museum in the chat. We are a historic house museum, and we created a virtual secret doors tour. Staff showed what behind the doors. Visitors love to see what's off limits to them, and that they do. We also have Sam take home art boxes and small outdoor meditation sessions at Grounds for Sculpture. And then I think that's it for the next section, so we can move on to the next one, which is
okay, access. So access being just programs or strategies that make attempts at removing barriers to access. So something that we're all interested in. And the first up that we have here is from the Design Museum in the UK, where they created a pay it forward scheme in partnership with some local charities that distribute free exhibition tickets to the local community. And they launched this to coincide with their reopening of the museum after the lockdown. And the pay it forward schemes aimed at offering free access to the museum's temporary exhibitions to young people and adults in the local community for whom price might actually be a barrier, and including those who may most be affected by coronavirus crisis. And if you go to their website, you can actually contribute to this program as well. Okay. And if you can't come to the museum is coming to you. And so the Cabot Science Space and Science Center created STEM kits, and well, about 400 of them, and they were distributed throughout the city of Oakland. And they partnered with their local libraries and boys and girls clubs to assist them in distributing the kits to local families. Okay, and this one, who doesn't need comedy in their life, of course. So this was an effort by the National Comedy Center to allow people to still come in person to their institution. So they created a nice Laugh Safe kit, and it comes with a personal stylus and personal earbuds and a Laugh Safe card with an RFID chip, which can be scanned for personalized exhibit content, so that they can have a safe, touch-free experience, because they do have a lot of interactive exhibits, and evidently they've gotten really high marks in their feedback about how safe people have felt coming to their institution, and have recommended that other people go. So yay for Laugh Safe kits. And then another example is from the Center of Science and Industry. And if you ever wondered how a ship as big as the Titanic could float, or how water striders are able to walk on water, and other issues about the fact that water is all around us, they put together some Water Connect kits that explores all types of water related science activities. So they basically are geared towards K-8 audiences, and encourage inquiry-driven learning, and they reinforce Ohio's learning standards. So this Ohio institution. So each kit comes with a colorful and engaging activity book for the learner, complete with activity instructions, career connections, space to record their findings, activity pages, and more. And once you are done with this kit, they also have a nature-related one and a space-related one. And one of my favorites, again, if you can't go to the museum, have the museum come to you in the it's 5 o'clock everywhere, Cocktails with a Curator by the Frick Collection. So they concocted the perfect mix of cocktails and art with a YouTube series. And every Friday at 5 o'clock, a Frick curator hosts a virtual happy hour where they offer insights on a piece of art with a complimentary cocktail for which they give you the recipe. And they are also very careful to have a recipe that is modified, so a modified mocktail for those under 21.
Like many museums before COVID, the Asian Art Museum invested heavily in interactive experiences that provided more interpretive material on the artworks that you were invited to explore further. With the need for no-touch experiences, the museum is providing complimentary stylists to keep those interactive tools safe and part of the visitor experience. When people visit today, the stylists are complimentary. Everyone is encouraged to take one as they arrive and then take it home. It also can serve as a great way to push buttons in elevators and then use throughout other experiences outside the museum. The Columbus Museum of Art has done something even similar. They have numerous hands-on exhibits. The museum decided to create and make available free single-use essential engagement kits available to their guests. The kit consists of a set of gloves, pencil, Post-its, and other tools to safely interact with hands-on activities and exhibits. We are, as everyone knows, in the midst of a presidential campaign. Many institutions are inviting their public and stakeholders to register to vote on site, which would include free admission to the organization. Secondly, many museums are serving as polling sites. As Charles Hyde of the Benjamin Harrison Presidential Site points out, museums are well positioned to serve as polling sites. Museums have high awareness, they are accessible, they demonstrate mutual benefit through equity, accessibility, and nonpartisan civic engagement, and they lead by example and have a special ability to remind the community of their civic duty. There's also the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Arkansas. It has sought to help those in their community that were more heavily impacted by the isolation as a result of the pandemic. The Social Connecting campaign had 9 artists create large-scale art pieces with connecting theme of togetherness. These art pieces would go on to be displayed at locations like outside of hospitals and senior living facilities. Those were a couple of suggestions about access. We now invite you to offer some in the chat. Eric, feel free to also invite people to chime in verbally if they want to tell us more about some of their ideas.
Yeah, of course. At any moment, if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask or contribute to this, just go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'd love to hear you guys' suggestions. But in the meantime, I'll catch up with some of the things that went on in the chat during that section. So we have Kristen at the Paul Revere House. They made their social distancing markers horseshoes. And Mocha Education moved a lot of their programs online, and their visitor engagement staff is also creating videos on TikTok to reach other audiences. And then we also have some sharing within here from Jennifer, sharing her favorite virtual fundraiser, which you saw at the Heritage Museum and Gardens in Sandwich, Mass. And then we also have Michelle sharing a wonderful virtual fundraiser format in the chat as well with some links. And we have Tammy here an article for international ticketing tips and best practices for venues and organization moving forward with fundraisers and galas. We also have Cynthia for the first time, the Museum of American Revolution as a polling site. And then the Appleton Museum of Art, this is from Grizel. The gift shop has started a virtual shopping event similar to QVC. So who doesn't love buying things that they're being marketed to?
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric. We're going to move on to our next category, engage. Eric?
Yeah, up next we have engage. This section we will be looking into organizations inviting their audience to actively participate in various ways. Up first, we have the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles. They traditionally host their Dino Fest event yearly at their institution. This year, the festival went digital and was live streamed over a week's time. Dino Fest consisted of chats with paleontologists, and guests were allowed to explore the Natural History Museum's famous Dinosaur Hall from the comfort of their own home. The entire event was also recorded and posted on their YouTube channel for later viewing. Next one, please. The Getty Museum has been kind enough to provide its guests and their fellow Animal Crossing players with digital codes to get their world-class art collection, which allows players of the game to decorate their island in-game with works found at the Getty. Yes, that means you can decorate an island using a Manet or a Rembrandt. Next one, please. The Artword Archive sought to bring its followers together via their organization's Instagram account and the hashtag ArtUnites Challenge. Each day, multiple prompts are posted to allow its followers to share their creations with the institution and each other. Some of the prompts that were featured were going on a virtual museum tour, selecting their favorite work, and recreating it in a different style. Also, picking a color or material that normally one would avoid at all costs and use it in an excess in any personal project. Next one, please. The Museum Computer Network sought to create collaboration and a comprehensive list of numerous organizations, different virtual museums, tours, online connections, and cultural portals. The project began by putting out a call on MCN's Twitter account, and this resulted in various organizations sharing their content with one another and or social media followers in one great thread.
And who doesn't love animals visiting museums? Here's the Penguin Playdate, a partnership between the Shed Aquarium and MCA Chicago in the city of Chicago. Izzy and Darwin are Magellanic penguins. And beside providing variety and exercise for the penguins, the visit is meant to encourage Chicago residents and tourists to come to the museum and to come to the aquarium, both recently reopened. And a favorite of mine, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, is always, if you follow them on social, always doing something interesting. They are now have a series called KRILL Waves Radio. 2 hours of squid to relax, study, or work to. You can relax, focus, and flow with big fin reef squid from the Tentacles exhibit at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and some ambient, mostly instrumental, ocean-themed, lo-fi hip-hop beats. They first posted a video of big fin reef squid, a 2-minute video, and their fans wrote in and said they wanted much, much more. So here is a 2-hour series that is just started. And as we're all encountering in this pandemic, museums don't just exist in person, but they exist online, and some are exclusively online. And this, I think, is a museum for all of you. If you don't know about it already, it's the Museum of Fine Memes, and I think it really speaks our language. Here's one that says, how I'm expected to be performing at work right now, and then the head where I'm actually at, who can relate to that. Another says, bonuses for executive staff versus yoga for everyone else, and the caption says, yoga has been clinically proven to decrease the stress caused by the toxic work environment that we will never change. And all of the images are from the Museum of Fine Art in Boston's collection. So we might know at least what institution this wonderful host works for. The Community Face Covering Project is a project of the Westmoreland Museum of American Art. It's an initiative to provide the community with access to free, protective, non-surgical fabric face coverings. A few members of the staff started making these masks for their family, friends, and neighbors, and now they're making them for the community, and they're dropping them off in a no-contact spot at local libraries. It's a partnership with other community organizations. And now engage a few from you if you have some great programs that you'd like to share or initiatives you'd like to share.
Yeah, in the meantime, I'll catch up with a couple here that were dropped in the chat during that. We got from Pat providing another great example of a fundraiser done virtually. It is from a performing arts center with a built-in, mostly affluent audience. And then Nastasia, the California Botanic Garden and 18th Street Art Center have food-centric events, buying pre-packaged boxes and eating them together during a Zoom virtual tasting. Sounds great. And then if you guys have any extra ones, just drop them down in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and share with us.
With the clock ticking and still 15 or so ideas to go, I'm going to move on to the next section. And
Sure.
we'll have time at the end to listen to more from you. The last 6 months have often offered an opportunity for many organizations to consider a reckoning, an accounting, or an attempt to correct the failures or inequalities of the past, something that's been much needed to end, something that's driving much change at our organizations. My organization was well aware of the legacy of our founder, the man whose gift of 7,000 artworks started the Asian Art Museum over 50 years ago. This became even clearer several years ago as we were considering our 50th anniversary. The museum has decided and has recently removed a bust of Avery Brundage, the man whose gift started the museum. And we've put information about why we made that decision, where that bust was located. And the museum has established a rehistory team, a group of colleagues who are helping us understand what we need to do to reckon with the legacy of our founding. This includes examining the record, asking hard questions, and rewriting history, exactly what museums are expected to do. I think many of us are familiar with Change the Museum, which is pressuring US museums to move beyond lip service proclamations by amplifying tales of unchecked racism and other issues. Change the Museum is asking the tough questions and reminding all of us of the important issues that museums today must consider to fully evolve and be the leaders that internal and external stakeholders expect and need, including DEAI, hazard pay, and pay equity. Change the Museum has also provided an opportunity for other voices to be part of the discussion. And sometimes those tough questions lead to more tough questions. During a recent call for a public boycott of museums in October, frontline workers articulated how a boycott might impact their livelihoods, providing even more discussion on the complexities of how museums are coping during these times and how they need to evolve to be museums of the 21st century. Other museums are leaning into the counterintuitive. For example, the San Diego Museum of Natural History and some other museums have, for various reasons, decided to not reopen. The museum did reopen for a bit, but then closed again, and have decided to remain closed through 2020 and focus on actions online to better serve its internal and external stakeholders. Their decision was aimed to gain certainty and greater safety in a chaotic world, an ability to reprogram their time and energy in a better way, focus on their mission through a new lens of what the pandemic had provided, and the opportunity for some small scale construction projects. Their decision may seem counterintuitive, but it was the right decision for them, and others are considering the same issues.
And our last slide for reckoning is this decolonizing exercise. The Pitt Rivers Museum is one of the largest and most comprehensive anthropological museums in the world, and it's actively working to decolonize its collections, beginning with the removal of 120 human remains from a display which includes the well-known South American santsas, also known as the shrunken heads, as well as Naga trophy heads and Egyptian mummy of a child. Going forward, they're working with Shuar delegates, who are the historic makers of santsas in Ecuador, to learn how they want to be represented in the museum and how they would advise their cultural heritage to be cared for. And with your blessing, maybe we'll group the reckoning and the next section together and do a call out at the end and move forward into heal. The next category is programs or strategies designed to help participants cope with the stress of the crisis. And the first example comes to us again from San Diego in Balboa Park. The Museum of Man recently began a new identity campaign and renamed themselves the Museum of Us. It's a 100-year-old institution beloved by generations of San Diegans and tourists. It is also located on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Kumeyaay people. The museum's mission is to inspire human connections by exploring the human experience. And the new Museum of Us aims to accomplish this by sharing alternative narratives that challenge people's assumptions and help to see the world from different points of view. Another all-virtual archive is the Urban Art Mapping, George Floyd and Anti-Racist Street Art. Our artists and writers are making work in and on the streets, tags, graffiti, murals, stickers, and other installations. And they are in a unique position to respond quickly and effectively in this moment of crisis. Street art's ephemeral nature serves to reveal very immediate and sometimes fleeting responses, often in a way that is raw and direct. So in the context of a crisis, street art also has the potential to transform urban space and foster a sustained political dialogue, reaching a wide public and making change possible. This database seeks to document examples of street art from around the world that have emerged in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, and that are as part of this ongoing movement demanding social justice and equality. New York responds by the Museum of the City of New York. At this moment of crisis, the Museum of the City of New York is documenting history in real time by crowdsourcing stories of how all 5 boroughs are experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic and the uprisings around Black Lives Matter. On July 23rd, drawing on the efforts, the museum unveiled an outdoor installation featuring some of the many images that were submitted. And a new indoor exhibition will partner with this outdoor exhibition later next year.
And we have the first exhibition of the New York Historical Society's outdoor space, Hope Wanted New York City Under Quarantine, is curated by poet and journalist Kevin Powell and photographer Kay Hickman. The exhibit features more than 50 photographs and audio interviews during the team's 2-day odyssey across the city on April 8th and 9th, 2020. Hickman's photographs of people and their neighborhoods in all 5 boroughs, and Powell's interviews of New Yorkers impacted by the crises capture both tragedy and remarkable resilience at a moment in time during the pandemic. Visitors can also record their own experiences of the pandemic in an open-sided story booth. Next one, please. The Philbrook Museum of Art developed initiatives to be of service beyond their walls, emphasizing with all who have been and will continue to be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. They go on to state that we're in this together and here to help. They committed to 4 new initiatives supporting the immediate needs of their community, including supporting the Tulsa area COVID-19 response fund, supporting local food banks, supporting local artists, and supporting you, their visitors, through Museum from Home programs. And the Kennedy Center wanted to highlight and share acts of kindness that were taking place during these trying times due to the pandemic. Over a 50-day span, they highlighted a different act of kindness and paired it with an original art piece by the Kennedy Center's artist-in-residence, Mo Willems. Those art pieces were then sent to those people, spreading positivity within their community as a small token of appreciation.
Okay, so up next, we all had, I'm sure, needed moments to step away from all the craziness. So the Asian Art Museum is one that we are highlighting, that they created a list of digital experiences to bring the museum into people's homes. So one offering that they had was a set of meditative art videos, and they were all designed to help people clear their heads, breathe deeply, and find some inner peace, which we could all use. And one last one in the heal category is actually one from my own museum, which is basically a special exhibition that we had that opened just as the COVID was beginning, and so had to close almost immediately. And really it was an exhibition with sketches that have never been seen before, and uncovered the identity of the Black elevator attendant who posed for most of the figures, both male and female, in John Singer Sargent's murals at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. And all planned programs to really discuss these topics were completely reimagined and all put on our website. So they were all done virtually, along with a tour of the exhibition. So the exhibition really brings together Sargent's drawings, related historical materials to tell the story of McKellar's life, his central importance in Sargent's major artistic commissions in the Boston area, considers critical questions of race, class, and sexuality as relevant today as they were in the Gilded Age in Boston. So I would check that out on our website. It was quite great. And so now we are at the end of Heal. So we're going to do a combined Heal and Reckoning. Now a few from you. So if you have anything in either of those categories, you can put them in the chat, or you can unmic yourself and tell us about it live.
I'll catch up real quick. We have 3 that were that went by there. From Natasha, we had Heidi Duckler Dance did various outdoor socially distant COVID-19 compliant performances throughout LA last week. From Laura, the Museum of Photographic Arts in San Diego started an interactive photo club on Instagram where participants can earn virtual badges for completing assignments. And Patricia shouting out the excellent exhibit and programs that you guys that you should check out.
All right. Okay, I know that we are right at our time, or a little over, so I just want to wrap it up. And on behalf of Tim and Krista and Eric, thank you all so much for being here and sharing all of your wonderful ideas. And of course, just a reminder that this session was brought to you by the Public Relations and Marketing Group, as well as the Visitor Experience Group. And we hope to see you at programs later today, happy hour and things, and also tomorrow at other great programs. So thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of the conference.